April is Autism Awareness Month, and we wanted to profile someone in our community with autism. I thought of Zach Weber. Zach and his mom, Lisa, graduated from our most recent Buda Citizens Academy, and they were awesome students. I sat down with Zach, his mom, and his dad, Kevin, to learn more about autism and to share their story.
I like to think of us as, think of us like cats, like non-evil cats. So there are, no two cats are the same. There are like cats that are very aggressive and will hiss and scratch at you, and then there are cats that are just so, like me, that are just so sweet and snuggly.
Zach Weber just described about all of us. We all have different sides to our personalities. But Zach's different sides can be easily misunderstood by those who don't know what it is to be autistic.
It is so many varying types of autism, from nonverbal and a very difficult time communicating with the world to very high functioning, which is generally going to be Asperger's clarification. They are typically going to be the ones that are more focused and have real direction early on. And then the others on the spectrum need to find their place in the world. And I think the confusion is that they are so diverse in their abilities or inabilities. I think there's a lot of common misconceptions. One being that they're all good at something in particular. That's not really true for all of them. We have two boys with autism, and they're wildly different.
Zach and his brother, Kevin Lee, were both born autistic. While Zach eventually became more vocal as he got older, it didn't start out that way.
I noticed the biggest swing in the spectrum when they were born. When Kevin Lee came out, he looked like a little computer. He was just processing everything that was happening around the room. It was really quite fascinating to see. And when Zachary was born, there was a lot more silence. It was not an awareness of what was happening. And yet they both grew up kind of following that same pattern. But
I was also very vocal when I was little.
Yeah, well, and it actually didn't start like that. So he started out not speaking a whole lot.
And it's those complexities within the autism spectrum that can be challenging in the public school system.
I went to a public school, although like at school they had like something they called focus groups, where they would sometimes like take us out of class and they would teach us social skills. It's either called focus or social skills or whatever. And we would just we'd go there and we would play board games, and all the teachers were they were so nice and so patient, and like those are honestly kind of some of the real heroes of my life, next to my parents, of course. People with autism also need to be given different things as well. Like, yes, you can put us in a class with other people, but at the same time, you need to give us like different things because we don't work the same way as everyone else.
Zach spent the majority of his school years in the Round Rock ISD. His mom says it's important for parents of autistic children to advocate for them.
They were not prepared for Zach. And so I actually went in and insisted. We had an inclusion teacher and all the things that I had educated myself about. And we were very fortunate in that setting of having some dynamic teachers step up to the plate and say, I don't know what I'm doing either, but I know he's not the only one. I've seen these kids before. And we knew the numbers were growing at that time.
But one of the things that is vital is that the parents are involved from the beginning. And that's what Lisa did. She got
it's a lot of work.
She got
it really is.
In the classes, in the classrooms, and it was a lot of door knocking, sometimes kicking in the door, and just getting the word out there, and letting them know that this little boy has a chance. And so, yeah, that was.
I said I was going to cry.
Even with the support of teachers, parents, and the school district, it wasn't always easy for Zach. A lot of the things that you and I pick up on in social situations, or even how we deal with our emotions, well, it's not the same for people with autism.
One of the things I think people don't understand is that unlike a normal toddler who picks up your subtleties, even the way you perceive a stranger, the way that you would react to something that doesn't taste good, people with autism have to be taught a lot of those emotions. They have to visually see it. Things for Zach is he didn't understand why we laughed, didn't understand a punchline. We would watch Seinfeld episodes of all things to show him why it was funny. And because it was inappropriate. And you were all in on the joke and it was funny. If you weren't all in on the joke, it wasn't funny. And so the timing of that, which led to a lot of really great humor.
People with autism, we have very, very interesting personalities. And like we'll like say or do things that are like considered weird or out of place for anyone else. Like maybe we'll be like really hyper or maybe really childish or like maybe we'll be kind of aggressive.
And not always appropriate with their timing, perhaps.
Or age group. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Think of it like this. Zach experiences the world in a very different way. He feels everything 100%, to the point where things can become overstimulating.
You know how like people are afraid of the dentist? I'm not afraid of the dentist whatsoever. As a matter of fact, when I sit in their chair and they're poking at me with metal spears, poking at my teeth, it doesn't bother me whatsoever. I actually feel kind of calm when they're there and talking to me. Sometimes I even like going.
If you point the remote control
If you point the remote control at me, I freak out.
Cereal boxes. Certain colors. Textures. The air vents at school.
Air vents at school. I got over that. It's not like I'm spoiled and I can't take this, so I'm gonna cry till someone holds me. No, it's, oh my God, something's happening. I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. It's like 100 fists coming at me and 100 fists coming at me from everywhere. I just need to hide and curl up and I don't know what to do.
It's pretty scary. Yeah.
It is terrifying.
For people on the outside looking in, autism can be terrifying. And that has definitely had an impact on Lisa and Kevin, especially having 2 autistic children.
Kevin and I, we joke, but it's not funny, and we do. There's a lot of arguing. It's a 80% divorce rate, and so we've got a 160% divorce rate. I mean, one of the great ways that your community can help is offer these, either if it's not in a collective at your church, at your school, if it's your family. We all need help. There's not one of us who don't. Then you've got your being ostracized, which Zach has suffered, bullying relentlessly through school. That was very difficult.
Yeah, that's where the inclusion has to come in. It has to come in early, and then you have raving fans rather than people that don't understand you. They fully understand you and they
protect you.
They protect you, and that's what we never really, unfortunately, didn't have.
When Zach needed an escape, he found it in the form of video games.
I could either be this great superhero who, I could either be like this superhuman that fights off entire armies of demons and aliens. I could be this one Ant-Man army liberating an entire country from an evil regime, or I could just be this kid that sits at home all day and goes to work and everything. Like which one of those would you choose? Be the super awesome hero or just this kid? And honestly,
that's the part that makes me cry.
But Zach realized something very important when he found himself passing the time sitting in front of a computer all day. And it's a message he wants to pass along to other people with autism.
You have to take on discomfort. I remember one day I was just like, I can't take this anymore. I can't do it. I can't keep doing this. So I unplugged my computer and went to my parents and said, I'm gonna stay off of video games for a week. It was the longest week of my life. But I got through it and I started doing chores, and then suddenly I realized I actually like working. I actually started loving working. And I would go out and I would actually start getting anxious that if I didn't do anything, like I would go on the computer and play and I would just feel awful. I was like, you know what? I feel like I need to do enough work so that I feel comfortable enough to go play.
This all speaks to something that Zach's mom feels is non-existent for those with autism. What programs are available to help transition them into the real world after high school?
Most kids are given a choice early on to say, when you graduate from high school, you're going to go to college. Of course, I mean, that was our language forever. You didn't have a choice. My kids, we didn't say when you go to college. It was when you graduate from high school, you go and go to college. And then there is no place for them. So Kevin Lee, my eldest got letters from Harvard, for God's sakes, from his final grades, And he couldn't leave home without support. It wasn't even an option for him in reality. And for Zach, there's literally nothing. And I say that, and you know, only because he knows it. Whatever it is, we're going to have to make it.
Zach has a tremendous love for animals, and he proved it when he volunteered at a horse ranch.
He was incredibly successful. No incidents, no problems, safety issues, what have you. You give him rules and he follows them.
One of the horses kept trying to bite
Well,
him.
one of them kept trying to bite him.
Well, horses can be fickle, so that wasn't Zach's fault. But the point is, he is willing and capable of doing the job.
First of all, let's just say, the most committed guy you've ever seen in your life won't miss a day at work. I mean, he goes, and maybe his days have to be shorter. You're not gonna get 8 hours out of him. You probably get a good 4 solid or 6.
even then, I'll like kind of start to dread it.
But he's consistent. It's all he wants to do, and he wants to go do what he wants to do. And so there's a tremendous talent pool. So one of the things that I would love to see in our town in particular is some kind of a transition group or program that starts at the high school, perhaps lends itself to what the city does, where there's some kind of outreach or community gathering that they know that there's someplace to go.
There is still more work to do when it comes to providing opportunities for people with autism. But through all of the ups and downs, the good and bad, Zach has become 100% comfortable in his own skin. And for many of us, that doesn't happen until a lot later in life.
I like being called weird or different. I take that as like a compliment. I take 100% a badge of honor. Like, I'm not normal. I'm a weird kid, and I'm so happy that I'm different and autistic.
Yeah, you're unique.
I wouldn't have it any other way.